However, his name is Carolus Linnaeus, and he is the father of taxonomy. He is incredibly important to the fact that he is the one who was able to say to everybody, when we call these animals by this common name, you may think it is called one name, and I may think it's called another name, where in fact it is the same exact organism. So one of the ones that they talk about here in the book, or on the screen I should say, is the mountain lion. So here is the word mountain lion. And you can see right next to it is, in italic print, Puma concolor. And Puma concolor is a scientific name. All right? And Carolus Linnaeus came up with a scientific name, and he calls this, and you're going to see it later on another slide, binomial nomenclature. And this looks like it's going to be really squiggly. Binomial, uh-oh, I opened up something I shouldn't have. Binomial nomenclature. And I'm going to just erase it and you'll see it on the next slide instead, which will be completely fine. So anyhow, this two-part naming comes into something that is incredibly important. There are two parts. The first part, I'm going to put a box around it, is technically the genus. Now it talks about species first, but the genus is going to be the first part of the scientific name. So I'm going to put a number 1 around it. The species is the second part of the scientific name. And those two parts are going to be the name of every organism on Earth has one scientific name to it. So when you're talking about a polar bear, every polar bear has the same scientific name. Every grizzly bear has the same scientific name. Every puma has the same scientific name. So every mountain lion has the same scientific name. Even though you may call a puma a mountain lion, or somebody else may call it a cougar, they all have the same scientific name. Can you imagine somebody calls it in a Spanish name and I call it by an American name or whatever? Everybody who's studying or doing research have to be able to identify the animal. So what they do is they have the ability, this is what Carolus Linnaeus did, he then developed, okay, most of them are Latin or in Greek. The scientific name is Puma, it's concolor, and then it has common names that we know as mountain lion, puma, cougar, and panther. They did the same thing, like I said, for every single organism. They have a scientific name. So this tree right here, you may know it as a red maple, a swamp maple, or a soft maple, but in the scientific community, it is Acer rubrum. So some living things have many different common names, but when it comes to the scientific community, they're going to have one particular name. So let's review that kind of information right now. Here is the word binomial nomenclature, and that's where we said very specifically that it is two-part naming. Two-part naming. I gotta get my eye better. Carolus Linnaeus. Who is he again? He is the founder or father of taxonomy. What is taxonomy? The study of living things. That's biology. So it's the study of classifying things. So genus and species name. the genus and species name are going to be, very specifically, the scientific name. Now, here comes the interesting part. The genus is always capitalized, every single time. The species is always lowercase. That is how you can tell which one is the genus and which one is the species. So, as you can see, it's underlined. It can also be italicized because when you're reading in a book, it doesn't always have it underlined. It could just italicize the print. So here is one scientific name, Homo sapiens. Here is the genus. Sapien is the species. And what does it equal? That's us. Homo sapiens, we're human. Tursops, truncatus, that is the bottlenose dolphin. Felis domesticatus is your domestic cat. Puma concolor, that is the puma. Ursus maritimus, that is the polar bear. There is, again, a scientific name for every single one of our organisms. Now we're going to move on to find out about the 7 levels of classification. Technically, that's 8, but we're going to talk about like the 7 levels of classification, which I love saying: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. So something that we have to understand, all right? There are 3 domains. We have archaea, we have eubacteria, and we have eukaryotes, right? Those are our main 3 domains. And then what happens with those domains is that they get broken down into smaller parts, all right? The Archaebacteria actually ends up being off by itself. They are the oldest form of life on Earth. I don't know why that T won't come. There we go. The archaea is the oldest form. The eubacteria, let's see, I'll choose a different color for eubacteria. Let's go yellow. The eubacteria ends up becoming what used to be called Monera. And Monera are the prokaryotes. And as you know, if you had me in class, we said pro-no. And pro-no means there is no nucleus. And these are our bacteria. So the eubacteria are your kind of, there are bad bacteria, but we also have good bacteria. And you have bacteria that live all over your body, in your eyebrows, in your mouth. You eat good bacteria in your yogurt, in your cheese. So there are plenty of good bacteria. Again, these are our domains. They kind of, if you will, live right here. These are where the domains are. Okay? That's where it comes to the 8th. Then we have our eukaryotes. The eukaryotes, right here, are what make up the final 4 kingdoms. And those final 4 kingdoms can be found here. We have Protista, single-celled organisms. We have fungi. Of course, many of you probably think you are the fungi. We have plants, and we have animals. And all of these here belong in kingdom. Now that I've probably confused you, let me go ahead and erase that screen. So, a lot of times people get confused and they're like, wait, what? How do you remember all of that? Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. Why does it look like that? Well, again, we're trying to remember them in order. Domain is the largest Oh, okay, so if it's large, that's why it's so big at the top. Species is the smallest, which is why it's the smallest here. So 7 levels of classification: kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. And depending on what order you have watched these videos, maybe some of you have already watched the King Philip video. King Philip came over for Great Spaghetti. And what you're going to know is this is a mnemonic device. This is a way for you to remember the order of the levels of classification. And if you don't like that sentence, maybe you could come up with King Philip. Let's see. Let me come up with one. King Philip came over for good soup. I don't know. I'm sure I can come up with another one. But you could come up with your own to remind yourself or to remember those 7 levels of classification. So let's go ahead and look at an example. Here we are looking at a grizzly bear. We have a black bear, a giant panda, a red fox, Abert squirrel, a coral snake, and a sea star. They are all in the kingdom Animalia. Awesome. Now, this must be very specifically our kingdom. So, that means that everything in that kingdom is going to be an animal. All right, yes, they are all animals. Yes, a sea star is an animal. It's not a plant. Well, it's not a fungus. Nope, it's not a bacteria. And you said, Miss Grover, that protists are mostly single-celled. So, no, sea stars have more than one cell. So, yeah, it is an animal. So, when we go down to the next level, it kind of is going to drop some of the organisms out because they're going to have less similarities. So when we go down, we're going to look at this word right here, phylum. Phylum is going to have our organisms in a specific grouping. This phylum is called Chordata. That means that they have a backbone. Well, every animal in that line at the top in Animalia who have a backbone will then drop down to the same phylum as the grizzly bear, because that's the one that we are actually trying to get by itself. So everything but the sea star has a backbone. So as you can tell, everything does come down minus the sea star. So the sea star does not come down here. So it must not have a backbone. So let me erase this. And let's continue on. So we go down to class. There's 5 different classes of animals. We have mammals, we have fish, we have reptiles, amphibians, birds, and since we have those, we are now looking at them. Well, a snake is not a mammal. A squirrel is, a fox is, a giant panda is, a black bear is, and a grizzly bear is, which is why we are then going to get rid of the snake as we come down, because the snake is going to be our reptile. So now that we've gotten rid of the sea star coming down, now we've gotten rid of the snake. These are all mammals. When we come down the next level here, this says order Carnivora. Carnivore. What do I know about carnivore? A carnivore eats meat. Do squirrels eat meat? No, I don't think so. They eat nuts. So now we're going to cut the squirrel out because all the other ones eat meat. So now the fox is going to be gone as we come down into the next level. Family Ursidae. Ursidae means bear family. So all of these are bears. The fox doesn't belong now down here with the bear. As we jump down, we have genus Ursus. The Ursus is very specific to big bears. And the panda bear is not a very large bear compared to the grizzly and the black bear. And then we get rid of the black bear, and we have not the Arctic bear, I looked at the word Arctos. We have the grizzly bear, and his species is Ursus arctos. So we finally get rid of the panda, we get rid of the black bear, until we have the grizzly bear all by himself. You can do this with every single animal, and we can get it all by itself. Even when you have multiple different kinds of lemurs or multiple different kinds of ants, it's odd to think about you can get every single one by itself, but it's completely true. So here's another example. We have the domain up here is Eukarya. We have everything in it. We have fungi, we have plants, we have animals, we have protists. Everything is in there. And then we're going to jump down to kingdom Animalia. All right. Well, the leaf was in here at first. It was a plant. Well, it can't come down to the next one because they have to all be animals. Then we come down to phylum Chordata. That means it has a backbone. So it says has a hollow nerve cord in their backs. All right. So that means that they all have a hollow nerve cord, some kind of backbone. Class Mammalia again. There are different classes. Well, a bird is not a mammal, it's a bird. So that one drops out. So we have a black bear, and we have a bigger cat. Maybe this one is a puma. And we have an ocelot possibly here. And then we have the domestic cat and the human. Then we have a family of Carnivora. And then that gets rid of the human down here, because we do have our canine teeth, but we also have what? We have our molars, and that's going to keep us out of just being specifically carnivora. And then our family is Felidae, which means cats. Well, now the black bear doesn't exist here, because this is the cat family. Genus Felis, it says are cats that cannot roar. So these two cats can't roar, they can only purr. And then we get down to Felis domesticatus is the house cat. It's the unique traits that other members of genus Felis do not have. So that is how we get this cat to be completely by itself. So eventually what you're going to see in Seesaw is you're going to have a classification chart where you're going to have animals and you're going to have to fill it in. This one is an example of sharks. You're going to have one of something else. And again, when you're looking at how to classify organisms, there are many things that you can do. I hope that you have understood. Remember, you can always rewind and rewatch it and do the video more times than once. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Bye, guys.